Hello friends, this is the third lecture of our thyroid hormone series. In this lecture, we are going to discuss about the mechanism of action, regulation and the applied aspect of the thyroid hormone. So let's start with the mechanism of action of the thyroid hormone. So first thing you guys understand is that thyroid hormone has a pleiotropic action. Now what is pleiotropic action? That we covered in our growth hormone, right? The pleiotropic action means that thyroid hormone will work at the multiple level. It does not have any discrete target organ to act on. So first thing you should write it down is that thyroid hormone do not have any discrete target organ. It affects the cellular activity of almost all the tissue in our body. And here's the thing, thyroid hormone has a receptor present inside the cell. If we become more precise, it is present over the nucleus. So it has an intranuclear receptor. This receptor will be present over the DNA sequence. So once the thyroid hormone acts through the nuclear receptor, it is basically increase the nuclear transcriptional gene and increase the synthesis of functional protein. So now this functional protein may be anything. It may be enzymatic protein, it may be structural protein, or it may be transport protein like pumps and channels and all this thing. Now by stimulating all the functional protein, thyroid hormone is going to increase the functional activity of the cell and throughout the body. This is how the thyroid hormone will work in grossly manner. Now let's discuss in a little bit of detail. Let me show you a diagram. Say in this diagram, this T3 stands for thyroid hormone T3, triiodothyronine. This T3 will be entered inside the cell and this T3 is going to bind with the TR. This TR is a thyroid receptor that is present inside the nucleus over the DNA, right? Once this T3 will bind with this TR, it will activate this TRE. Now what is this TRE? TRE is thyroid responsive elements, that elements of the DNA. Once this TRE get activated, this thyroid hormone will bind, once the thyroid hormone will bind with the TR and make a hormone receptor complex. That hormone receptor complex is going to activate the TRE and this TRE will start making the appropriate mRNA. Now this mRNA will goes to the cytoplasm over the ribosome and this protein synthesis will take place. Now this is how you should write it down. Thyroid hormone receptor is intranuclear and this thyroid receptor is basically two type, alpha and beta. Now this beta is specifically designed for the brain and the alpha receptor is present all over the body. So that might be asked in MCQ, TRB will be present where, right? Now the next thing, this TR, the receptor thyroid hormone receptor, has a capacity to bind with T3 as well as T4, but the T3 bind more strongly. The T3 has a more affinity to bind with the receptor and so most of the T4 will be converted into the T3 before its action. So here's the thing, the receptor, the thyroid receptor bind with T3 and T4 both, but receptor has a high affinity to bind with T3. That's why most of the T4 will be converted into the T3 to make the action more pronounced. Now how will you write it down in exam? Thyroid hormone will enter inside the cell. T3 will bind to the thyroid receptor in the nuclei. Then T4 can also bind but with less avidly. The hormone receptor complex bind with the DNA, basically the HRE, hormone responsive elements. It will increase the expression of the variety of the different gene and code for various proteins that regulate the cellular function. And this T3 is less tightly bound to the plasma protein than T4. And T3 bind more strongly to the thyroid hormone receptor. And this T3 acts 3 to 5 times more rapidly than T4. Now the regulation of the thyroid hormone. Now as far as the regulation of thyroid hormone is concerned, we have to understand two things. One is the negative feedback mechanism, the hypothalamo anterior pituitary thyroid axis. Let me show you the diagram first. Now in this diagram you can see that the hypothalamus will secrete the TRH. Now this TRH will activate the anterior pituitary to secrete TSH. Now this TSH will be work over the thyroid gland, and this thyroid gland will secrete the T3 and T4. Now in this T3 and T4 has a negative inhibition of the production of TSH at the anterior pituitary level and the production of TRH at the hypothalamus level. We are going to discuss this thing in detail in subsequent slide. Next one is the autoregulation. Now this autoregulation part is basically the regulation of thyroid hormone by food iodine or whatever the iodine that we consume. Let's start with the effect of TSH on the thyroid gland. Now it is an anterior pituitary hormone and it is a glycoprotein. So as the name suggests, glycoprotein, it has a two chain, one is alpha and another one is beta, and this TSH secretion will be in pulsatile manner. So the pulse will be started in the night and it will be peak at 9 p.m. at the midnight and then decline during the day. And the half-life of this TSH is about 60 minutes. Remember the half-life, it is 60 minutes. Now once the TSH is inside the circulation, it goes to the thyroid gland, it will increase the T3 and T4. Now the mechanism of action of TSH is TSH will be work via cyclic AMP pathway, cyclic AMP system. And if you guys remember that once the cyclic AMP system activated, it will be activates the adenylyl cyclase, then there is increased formation of the cyclic AMP, it will activate the protein kinase A and causes multiple phosphorylation of the different portion, different things inside the cell. And this thing is already covered in receptor and signaling. Now here is the question, how the TSH will increase the secretion of the T3 and T4. Now if you guys remember this figure shows the actual sequence of events that is taking place for formation of the thyroid hormone. So this TSH is going to increase each and every step of the thyroid hormone synthesis, starting with this iodine trapping, then organification, then the oxidation, then the formation, then the this endocytosis, then this breakdown of the thyroglobulin molecule and release of the thyroid hormone. So you can write it down, all the step will be increased by TSH. Like this, first thing first, it will increase the activity of iodine pump, the iodine trapping, then it increase the iodination of the tyrosine, it will increase the proteolysis of the thyroglobulin, it also increase the size and number of the thyroid cell, and this TSH will also change the structure, also change the epithelium from cuboidal to the columnar, the inactive to the active state. And finally, by doing all these things, it will increase the thyroid hormone synthesis or increase in the secretion of the thyroid hormone. Now let's discuss about the effect of TRH over the thyroid gland. Now as you guys know, the full form of TRH is basically the thyrotropin releasing hormone, right? Now it is secreted by hypothalamus. Now this TRH is the only peptide hormone having a 3 amino acid sequence. It is a tripeptide. And which nuclei of the hypothalamus is secrete TRH? If you guys remember, it is paraventricular nuclei. Let me repeat one more time. Paraventricular nuclei will secrete TRH, and along with the TRH is also secrete CRH. So remember that TRH and CRH will be secreted by paraventricular nuclei, and periventricular nuclei will secrete somatostatin. Got it? Now this TRH will stimulate the anterior pituitary and it will increase the secretion of TSH, and the actual pathway or actual mechanism that TRH will follow is a GQ system, thyrotropin releasing hormone activate the anterior pituitary gland by GQ system. And you know what happens once the GQ system is activated, it will activate the phospholipase C, and ultimately IP3 and DAG system will be activated. So if you do not understand this, what is GQ system, go through my first lecture, receptor and signaling 1. Now here's the thing you might need to mention or write it down somewhere. This TRH does not only stimulate the TSH secretion, it also stimulates the growth hormone secretion and also the prolactin. So basically this TRH is also used to detect the growth hormone disorder by the test named as TRH stimulating test. Got it? Now, based on this feedback mechanism, there are two type of comment is already asked in the Saurashtra University paper. This one is the first one: decline in the free thyroid hormone would leads to increase in the TSH secretion. Now, what's supposed to write it down in such type of comment? Write it down like this way: decline in the free thyroid hormone level will be decrease the feedback inhibition of TRH and TSH secretion. And anterior pituitary will secrete more amount of TSH, and this leads to increase in the TSH secretion. You have to write it down just 2 to 3 sentences. That's enough for the comment. Now the second comment, it's little bit has a touch to the applied aspect. The TSH level is high in primary hypothyroidism. Now what is the primary hypothyroidism? See, whenever the term primary comes in any applied aspect, remember that primary term is basically designed for the problem that is present inside that particular portion or the gland. So in primary hypothyroidism, the problem or defect lies in the thyroid gland itself. So thyroid gland are not able to make T3 and T4 in the sufficient amount. So no more feedback inhibition of the TSH secretion, and TSH level will be high. So it is the answer of the TSH level will be high in the primary hypothyroidism. Now the next portion of the regulation is the autoregulation of the thyroid gland. Now this regulation is basically by iodine in the diet. So secretion is regulated by food iodine content. If the deficiency of the iodine in the diet, this iodine trapping, the first step of the thyroid hormone synthesis, it becomes super efficient. This NIS pump, sodium iodide symport, will be activated super efficiently and make sure that more and more amount of the iodine will be transported inside the thyroid cell. Now the reverse will happen if there is excess iodine inside the food. What will happen? Iodine trapping become less efficient, so there are less chances of the organification. What is organification? Organification is basically the attachment of the oxidized iodine with the tyrosine molecule inside the thyroglobulin. So iodine availability remain constant by this changing in the efficiency of the thyroid trapping. This is called the autoregulation of the thyroid gland. Right, now let's discuss about this clinical correlation, the applied aspect of our thyroid gland. Whenever there is increased thyroid hormone synthesis, that condition is known as hyperthyroidism. Now this hyperthyroidism, in some books it is written as a thyrotoxicosis. The other cause of the hyperthyroidism is thyroid adenoma and Graves' disease. Now here's the thing, in some books this Graves' disease and thyrotoxicosis are written as more or less one. But there is slight difference in between these two terminology. Thyrotoxicosis literally means that hyperthyroidism, and it is not supposed that every time this thyrotoxicosis is along with the Graves' disease. Graves' disease is one of the reason of the hyperthyroidism, and this hyperthyroidism has a many causes. Got it? So most of the time this thyrotoxicosis will be addressed along with the Graves' disease. That's okay, but there are slight difference in between these two terminology. This is one of the cause of the hyperthyroidism, the thyrotoxicosis, and thyrotoxicosis itself is a hyperthyroidism. Now what is thyroid adenoma, that we discuss in our subsequent slide. Now decreased thyroid hormone level, it is known as hypothyroidism. It is it may be the myxedema or the cretinism or the Hashimoto's disease. Now what are these three things we discuss in our subsequent slide, but in this slide let me highlight one thing. The Graves' disease is an autoimmune disease. Hashimoto's disease is also autoimmune disease. The difference between Graves' disease and Hashimoto's disease is that in Graves' disease antibody is going to increase the thyroid hormone synthesis, while in case of Hashimoto's disease, this antibody is going to destroy the thyroid gland and ultimately causes hypothyroidism. Got it? Now let's start our discussion with the hyperthyroidism. What happens in hyperthyroidism? The thyroid gland will be increased 2 to 3 times to this normal size. There might be hypertrophy or hyperplasia of the follicular cell. So there are two words. One is hypertrophy, another one is hyperplasia. The meaning of hypertrophy is that there is increase in the size of the cell. remember the word hypertrophy means single cell will be increased in size. In hyperplasia, there is increased number of cell, not the size of the cell, number of cell. Clear? Now both will leads to increase in the rate of the secretion of the each cell, and ultimately the thyroid hormone will be secreted more or less 5 to 15 times more than normal. Now let's discuss the Graves disease. Now what happens in Graves disease? As I told you earlier, it is an autoimmune disease and most common form of the hyperthyroidism. So what happens in this autoimmune disease? There is a production of the antibodies that is called thyroid stimulating immunoglobulins. This thyroid stimulating immunoglobulins will be formed, and it against the TSH receptor, thyroid stimulating receptor, that is present over the thyroid gland. Now what will happen? This antibody will bind with the same receptor that bind with the TSH and causes continual activation of the cyclic AMP system of the cell. Now here is the difference between once the thyroid stimulating hormone will bind with the TSH receptor and this antibody bind with the TSH receptor. Once the TSH bind with the thyroid receptor, it will activate the cell for 1 hour. And if the antibody, the TSH and immunoglobulin antibody, thyroid stimulating immunoglobulin will bind with the receptor, it will activate the receptor for 12 hours. So you can see there are 12 times more action as compared to TSH. So what will happen? Basically, there is increased thyroid hormone level, and increased circulating thyroid hormone level will leads to decreased TSH level, and TSH concentration will be fall less than normal, or often essentially the zero as there is given in Genon. And let's remind one more time, Hashimoto's disease is also an autoimmune disease, but here's the difference. In Hashimoto's disease, the antibody that is produced inside our body, it will destroy the gland, it will not stimulate the gland, while in case of Graves disease it will stimulate the gland. Now the second cause of the thyroid hypothyroidism is the thyroid adenoma. See, in thyroid adenoma, not the entire gland is affected, only a small portion of the gland, small nodule or localized tumor will be developed. That localized tumor will be secreted a large amount of thyroid gland, the thyroid hormone. Now this small portion of the thyroid gland will secrete large amount of the thyroid hormone, so basically it will decrease the TSH level, and the secretion of the rest of the gland will be totally inhibited. And because of the increase in thyroid hormone of the from the adenoma tissue, the production of the TSH will be decreased. Got it? Now the symptoms of the hypothyroidism. Now the symptoms of the hyperthyroidism, I'm already discussing all the symptoms in the action of the thyroid hormone. What happens once the thyroid hormone is in excess, what happens when the thyroid hormone is in low level. So this is nothing but the revision of our previous lecture, what happens in hyperthyroidism. So what the thyroid hormone do practically, it is going to increase the BMR, right, basal metabolic rate, and because of the increase in the BMR, person will increase more amount of fluid, and despite of that there is a weight loss. There is not a weight loss despite of increasing the food intake. Again, because of this increased BMR, there is increased heat production and person starts sweating. There are more amount of sweating in hyperthyroidism, and heat intolerance, person cannot tolerate heat. And what happen in the CVS, thyroid hormone will stimulate this cardiovascular system, it will increase the heart rate, and if there is a more amount of thyroid hormone inside the circulation, it ultimately leads to tachycardia. Sometime arrhythmia and atrial fibrillation will be present. So here's the thing, there is one more terminology you have to remember, that one is the thyroid storm. It is not written in this diagram, in this slide, so write it down somewhere. Thyroid storm. What is thyroid storm? Thyroid storm is a life-threatening condition. And what happens to thyroid storm? In thyroid storm, person is actually suffering from hyperthyroidism. It may be untreated or undertreated. And in that thyroid storm, the heart rate, blood pressure and body temperature are increased in very high level. It is known as the thyroid storm. Got it? Sometimes there might be a chances to ask the examiner will be asked in comment what is thyroid storm. You have to write it down. In thyroid storm is nothing but untreated or undertreated hyperthyroidism. The person have a hyperthyroidism and person have a higher amount of or increased level of heart rate, blood pressure and body temperature. Three things. Now what happens in GIT? Thyroid hormone is going to increase the secretion of the digestive juice and increase motility. So ultimately it will lead to diarrhea, right? So thyroid and hyperthyroidism, there is a tendency to diarrhea, vomiting and steatorrhea. And what happens in neuromuscular disorder? What happens in neuromuscular level? As we guys already know that the thyroid hormone is going to stimulate the CNS as well as the muscle tissue, and if the thyroid hormone is in higher amount, then the muscle weakness will take place and the tremor in the hand will be present. So here the thing you need to write it down in neuromuscular part: nervousness, restlessness, then the psychosis will be developed, and as far as the muscular system is concerned, muscle weakness and the tremor inside the hand, right? Some specific symptoms of the hyperthyroidism is ophthalmic symptoms. You guys might already know there is a condition known as the exophthalmos. Now what is the exophthalmos? The same thing that is written in this diagram, this shown in this picture. It is the bulging of a eyeball, right? Bulging of the eyeball. Now why there is a bulging of the eyeball? Because of the edematous swelling of the retroorbital tissue that is present behind the eye, obviously, right? And why there is a edematous swelling in the retroorbital tissue? The answer is like that: there is a fibroblastic proliferation. First is the fibroblastic proliferation, and another one is the accumulation of mucopolysaccharide. Remember the term fibroblastic proliferation and mucopolysaccharide accumulation. Both this thing will ultimately leads to edematous swelling behind the eye, and it will leads to degenerative changes inside the extraocular muscle. Now why I am making this topic very clear to you guys, because there is one comment that is actually asked from this exophthalmos topic that we discuss in our next slide. Next one is the reproduction. What happens in the reproduction? Now in case of male, basically impotence in the male, there is erectile dysfunction, and in female there is amenorrhea and the oligomenorrhea. Amenorrhea means absence of mens, oligomenorrhea means there is a less amount of menstrual bleeding, or might be the frequency will be changed. Now the comment that I mentioned earlier is like this: exophthalmos of the Graves disease. It is actually asked in subsequently 2005 2004. So what will you write it down in this comment? You have to write it down in this way: in Graves disease there is increased thyroid hormone synthesis, in increased thyroid hormone level, and ultimately there is increased retroorbital content. Now what happens? This retroorbital contents, it will leads to the bulging out of the eyeball. Now why this bulging out of the eyeball will take place? Because of the two things that I mentioned in our earlier slide. One is the fibroblastic proliferation, another one is the accumulation of the mucopolysaccharide retroorbitally, and ultimately leads to bulging out of the eyeball, and that bulging out of the eyeball is known as exophthalmos. You have to write it down in this manner. Now the next portion of the applied aspect is the hypothyroidism. Now what is hypothyroidism? Obviously, as the name suggests, it is decreased thyroid hormone level. Now as far as the etiology, the causes of the hypothyroidism concerned, there are two types: primary and secondary. As I told you earlier, primary means there is a problem in the disease in the gland itself. In the secondary means that there is a problem at the higher level. So primary hypothyroidism, there is a disorder of the thyroid gland, and secondary hypothyroidism is basically disorder of the anterior pituitary level or the hypothalamus level. Now the clinical features. Now as far as the clinical feature is concerned, depending of the age, there are two type of different manifestation. One is known as cretinism, another one is the myxedema. Now if it is present, the hypothyroidism present in child, it is known as cretinism. If it is present in adult, it is known as myxedema. Now what happens in infantile cretinism? If possible, remember this picture. This picture might be very useful for the clinical feature of the infantile cretinism. See, thyroid hormone is basically important in early age of our life, from first year, from birth to the first year, because at that particular age our brain, our nervous system will be developed, and thyroid hormone has a very big role in it. So in case of infantile cretinism, the child is congenital absence of the thyroid hormone or decrease in the thyroid hormone. What will happen? There is a mental retardation will take place. There is a growth retardation. Then the delayed milestone. What is milestone? The milestone development of the child is like that. The child is supposed to do certain things at certain period of the time of this age, right? Like let me give you an example. From birth to 1 year, child is might be able to drink from the cup. It might be able to sit alone without any support. It is display the social smile. After 1 year, child will be start walking with the support. After that, it will be walk at the more or less about 12 to 13 months. Child is supposed to walk without support. This is the milestone. Child supposed to do certain things at particular age. That thing will be very much delayed in infantile cretinism. Then the pot belly, protrude tongue, then flat nose and dry skin, spare hair. The hair might be also be decreased. So these are the clinical feature of the infantile cretinism. This last four you can easily elaborate in the diagram. Now what happens at the adolescent level? Cretinism at the adolescent. So person cannot have a normal height. It has a short stature and the poor performance at the school, delayed puberty and delayed sexual maturation. This is all about the cretinism. Let's discuss about the myxedema. What happens in myxedema? See, this upper diagram is the universal figure of the myxedema. Most of the time, most of the book, this figure is used. Now this very figure is also used in the spotting in our exam. So if we ask that identify the disorder and cause of the disorder, if you see this phase, it is myxedema, basically by decreasing hypothyroidism, because of the hypothyroidism, right? So as you guys see that in both the cases of the myxedema, person's face become edematous. That's why the term edema is written over here, myxoedema. Now what actually happens in myxoedema? Let's understand that thing. See, the skin normally contains a variety of the protein. That protein has a tendency to combine with the three things. One is polysaccharide, hyaluronic acid, and finally chondroitin sulfate or chondroitin sulfuric acid. See, skin has a normally a protein. That protein has a tendency to bind with these three things. Now if there is a normal thyroid hormone level, then the thyroid hormone is going to catabolize that protein, so that protein cannot able to bind these three things. So thyroid hormone favors the catabolism of these three protein. So what happens in hypothyroidism? There are no more catabolism of this protein. So this protein that is present inside the skin is going to bind with these three structure, these three substance, and these three substance is a tendency to absorb water, and it accumulates the water and water retention behind the skin. So that's why there is a edematous swelling is present over there. So in hyperthyroidism, this complex will be accumulate, promote the water retention, and characteristic puffiness of the skin will be present. Right, that condition is known as myxedema. Clear? Now most of the symptoms of myxedema is more or less opposite that we have discussed already in the thyrotoxicosis. So we are not going to mention each and every one, but we are going to mention the different, what is the difference from the actual hyperthyroidism. So neuromuscular symptoms of the myxedema. See, in the first lecture of the thyroid hormone, I will tell you that in the developmental stages, the thyroid hormone is important for nervous tissue development, right? Three very particular region in central nervous system I told you that is very much dependent on the thyroid hormone. One is cortex, another one is cochlea, and third one is basal ganglia. So in this case, if there is a low level of thyroid hormone at adult person, again there is a problem in these three things. One is cortex, another one is cochlea, and third one is the basal ganglia. So if there is a hypothyroidism, there is a problem with the cortex. That problem is the forgetfulness. Person is frequently forget. Problem with the cochlea, that condition is known as hearing loss. And finally, the problem with the basal ganglia, it has a condition like hypotonia and ataxia. Right, so it is very simple to remember the neuromuscular symptoms of the myxedema. If you understand that there is a problem at 3 level, one is the cortex, another one is the cochlea, third one is the basal ganglia. Now next one is the psychosis. That psychosis, sometimes it is known as myxedema madness. Remember the term myxedema madness. And finally, there is a sluggish deep tendon reflex. Now, what is sluggish deep tendon reflex? What is the problem with deep tendon reflex? What is the sluggishness? The sluggishness means there is a delayed in relaxation phase of the deep tendon reflex. It has nothing wrong with the contraction. The wrong is at the level of relaxation. There is a delayed relaxation phase of the deep tendon reflex, and that is a sign known as Voltman sign. Remember the term Voltman sign. Sometimes it is also known as hung up deep tendon reflex. Now the goiter. Any abnormal increase in the size of the thyroid gland will be known as a goiter, but it does not specifically denote the functional status of the thyroid gland, because it is associated with euthyroid, normal thyroid hormone level, hypothyroidism, decreased thyroid hormone level, and increased thyroid hormone level, hyperthyrotoxicosis, hyperthyroidism, right? But most of the time this goiter will be present due to hypothyroidism. Right? That condition, the goiter associated with hypothyroidism, it is known as endemic goiter. Endemic goiter or iodine deficiency goiter. See, in this diagram there is a belt drawn over here. You guys are familiar with this belt. It is iodine deficiency goiter region of our country. Now when this iodine deficiency goiter will take place, it is basically take place when the daily dietary intake of the iodine is less than 50 microgram per day. See this figure, 50 microgram, that is given in Ganon. In some other book it is written as less than 100 to 200 microgram per day, but we stick to the Ganon because it is recent in recent edition. It is written as less than 50 microgram per day. It ultimately leads to decreased synthesis and secretion of the thyroid hormone, and it will leads to increased TSH level. And this TSH level has a trophic action over the thyroid gland. It leads to proliferation of the thyroid gland. Now to prevent this goiter, to prevent this iodine deficiency, we have to iodinize the common salt, right? So one part of the sodium iodide will be iodinized. This will be incorporated with 1 lakh part of the sodium chloride. That's about the iodine deficiency goiter. Clear? Now the last slide of our discussion is the thyroid function test. Now there are two types of the thyroid function test. The test is based on the primary function of the thyroid gland. These are the list of the tests. RIU means radio iodine uptake studies. Then protein bound iodine in the serum, T3 suppression test, TSH stimulation test, TRH stimulation test. Next one is the measurement of the thyroid hormone over the blood, inside the blood, serum PBI, BEI, circulating T3 and T4 level, circulating TSH level, in vitro resin uptake of T3, plasma tyrosine level, and thyroglobulin level. To understand this thyroid function in detail, we need entire lecture, so we are not going to enter inside this portion. Just remember few of the tests and mention in any question that is related with the thyroid. It will fetch you more marks. Got it? That's all about our today's discussion. Thank you.